This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Grand dawning, Cleveland, Ohio, and the rest of the world. Welcome to another episode of Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Cheryl Bullock, a.k.a. CiCi Bullock, and we're going to learn how CiCi came into being and talk about her career as a comedian, a comic, a person who makes people laugh, a person who tells stories. We've had a comedy workshop right here at Larchmere Arts, so we're coming to you from Larchmere Arts today, and it is my privilege and my pleasure to welcome to Open Door the comedian CiCi Bullock. Welcome to Open Door.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we've had some conversation today, and you've dropped a few things on me. I don't have to ask you where you're from because I know that you have a Shaker Heights pedigree, and that's a whole story. We're not going to spend a whole hour talking about Shaker, but we can begin by talking about the impact that growing up in Shaker had on your life. So tell us about what it was like growing up in that special place in Ohio called Shaker Heights.
Okay. Well, Sissy, who was my eldest sister, she graduated from Shaker in 1967. I graduated in 1982, and my twins graduated in 2017. We were the first blacks to buy on Shaker Boulevard between Warrensville Center and Green, as they call Deep Shaker. My dad was a dry cleaner, so of course, when we moved from Van Aken to Shaker Boulevard, of course, you know, the Jeffersons was out then, so the running joke with all my friends was moving on up, you know. But growing up as the only black child in my class at Mercer School, I remember it was 1972, I was in second grade. Most of my friends, we're all still friends, but it was a predominantly Jewish area at the time. And I remember this one boy called me a black raisin. And I just was like, wow, you know, because I started my journey at Van Aken and Ashby, and Dr. Clarence Mixon, who was the principal at Heights, his son Donald and I were BFFs. We were neighbors. And so we didn't think we were black anyway. Donald was adopted, very light complected, with good hair. And I remember Dr. Mixon made him give me an African doll, like with the dashiki and everything, for Christmas. And Donald was crying. He didn't want to give it to me. And I took that doll and threw it all up under my bed because it wasn't that we wanted to be white. It's just we weren't anything. Do you know what I mean? But I guess Dr. Mixon just wanted us to know we were whatever it was, but we didn't look like that doll. So, you know, then we moved up to, you know, what is known as Deep Shaker, and then it was just a whole different vibe. You know, the Jewish people were very welcoming. I used to go to temple with their families, and as I tell everybody, you know, I'd go to temple and the people would say, "Oh, come back, you're doing great." And when my mom would come to pick me up, they would say, well, you know, like if we go swimming at Thornton or whatever, well, we didn't know what to do with her hair. That was always a thing. You know, it was okay for the black child to spend the night, but what do you do with her hair? In the shower or the whatever? But I have to say, like I said, all of us are still friends from 1972 to 1982 when we graduated from Shaker, every single one of us. And they started busing from Moreland in the 4th grade. And imagine it was Cedric Burns in one class, me, Mitzi Bradley, and then Lon Brown, who is now deceased, and Mark Gunn. So however many classes there were, we were the sole black in each one of them. And when the busing started, we were terrified. We hadn't seen Double Dutch. We were like hiding in the gym. We didn't know what they were doing. We were just tetherball, kickball kids. And And of course we got bullied. And I remember it was my dad used to get a new Cadillac every year. And, they're coming in on a bus. Daddy is dropping me off in a Cadillac. Excuse me. I could have walked to school, but that was our little bonding time. So they would ask me, well, who's that dropping you off in a Cadillac? Well, I thought everybody was from a 2-parent home and everybody's mom and dad dropped them off at school. I had no idea. So I'm thinking, well, who would it be? And
yes. So just so we can put this in context, you said that you lived in one part of Shaker and then you moved to Deep Shaker.
Right.
But you also said that someone looked at you and described you
as a black raisin. That was Deep
raisin.
Shaker, black raisin, yes.
And I'm sitting here in front of you looking at you, and I see nothing that resembles a raisin, first of all.
No. And he was white, of course.
Of course.
Right.
But, it's not like, and this is no disrespect to those who have a higher melanin content, but nothing about you screams
raisin.
Like you just left Nigeria.
Right, at all. Matter of fact, my mother's kind of maybe your complexion, and my dad had that Ethiopian and so my cousins used to tell me that I was the mailman's baby, so so that's why Donald and I didn't think, it wasn't that we necessarily thought we were black, but we didn't look like this doll at all.
Right. Yeah, so the other part of it is you mentioned busing. So from what you're saying, I'm assuming that they were busing in black children from other parts. Were they busing?
From the Moreland district, like where the Shaker, where Master Pizza, all that plaza.
Right.
Moreland was the Shaker Library. So yeah, they were coming, and it was, obviously you shouldn't be terrified of your own people, but if you're the minority being the only black and you're playing tetherball and kickball and whatever else, we were on the playground doing penny drops, and then you have these kids on the playground doing some kind of dance and, getting into this rope that's going, we had never seen anything like that.
Right. So in essence, it was almost as though you were being exposed to your own culture.
That's exactly what it was.
Okay. So how did that impact you? How did it affect you?
Well, scary at first, as I said, but another little joke, if you will, of me being the only black is, remember Casper the Friendly Ghost was a big thing, and that was back in the day. We didn't do these creative costumes. You went to whatever your local drugstore, and you had the plastic mask. So I wanted to be Casper. So before Mom took me, because Mercer still does a parade. You wear your because my kids went to Mercer, and you march around outside, and everybody, all the different classes, because back then it was K through 6. Now it's K through 4, I guess. And everyone sees your costume. So to make a long story short, we get ready to go to school, and I don't know if I started to cry or my mom was like, "What's wrong?" I said, "Everybody's going to know who I am." She said, "Well, what are you talking about?" Well, I had the whole Casper thing, but I said, "They're going to know my hands." She didn't put any gloves on my hands. So everyone in class would have known, Halloween is about masking yourself. So if I'm going to be Casper and I don't have any gloves and I'm the only black child in the class, and my mother was, I can't even imagine how my mother felt. Here, this black, we're trying to work hard, get our child to not a more elite, just exposure, if you will. And I'm worried about them knowing that I'm the black kid in the class because Casper is all white.
Well, that's the irony, too, that you would choose to be a white character and you don't get any whiter than
Casper.
The Friendly Ghost.
But that was right. That was the big cartoon in our era in the 70s. And I loved him, I guess. Yes. But that's what I chose.
Well, Casper had a pretty friendly disposition.
He did. And he was so cool.
We love Casper, except that people are afraid of ghosts.
Right.
But again, the other irony is that he wanted to be your friend and not your enemy.
He did, and exactly.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I wanted to be their friend, not that I wasn't, but, I wanted to be a true Casper. And she didn't even think about gloves. So in answer to your question, that was different. And then the fourth grade, and my mother's Birmingham, Alabama, old school. So when I was bullied, when they were calling me rich and whatever, so my mother, her solution was to have them over for lunch, because then you walked home for lunch, or I guess the children that were bused probably ate lunch somewhere in Mercer. So imagine I'm walking to this 5-bedroom home we had my dad was a golfer, so we had the creeping bent lawn, putting green in the back. You want me to walk from Mercer to our mansion, if you will, because I went home, I'm like, rich, are we rich? Again, I thought everyone lived like we lived. So I walked home, and I just thought it would be worse. If they already think I'm rich just because they saw me on the playground or saw my dad dropping me off in a Cadillac, imagine if they come into our home.
So what did Dad do?
He was a dry cleaner, Bullock's Cleaners, on 105. He had a chain of cleaners, and then the money exchange. Prior to me being born, he had Bullock's Restaurant.
Okay, so he was an entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur, yes.
Let me ask another follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
Did they cook chitlins in your kitchen?
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay. So,
chitlins, hog maws,
right.
Cornbread, black-eyed peas. Oh, yes.
Okay, so the kids that were on the bus, they could have come to your house and
ate that.
And they would have been like, oh, yeah, she real.
Exactly. Pig's feet, all of that. But they saw what they saw. This, as they say, we speak the King's English. So this proper little girl that doesn't know double Dutch, her dad is dropping her off, and they're taking a bus. But I thought, like I said, everyone was from a 2-parent home, and everybody lived like we lived. I, honest to God, really, really thought that.
Well, it's just gratifying to know that you were in a 2-family home.
Yes.
That you were able to live in a nice house and ride around in that Cadillac and all that, but you still had a certain sense of identity, and I guess perhaps as a result of the experience that you had when you were in junior high school, you had more of an affinity to what we consider authentic Black culture.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk to you about your high school experience when we come back.
Okay.
And then we're going to look at the career path of one Cheryl Bullock, who becomes CiCi Bullock, and goes on to do motion picture films and hosting comedy shows and all those good things that happen with folks who are acquainted with their skills and their talent. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson right here on 95.9 FM WOVU, Burton Bell Car Community Radio. My guest, as you just heard, is comedian CiCi Bullock. We'll be right back after this.
If you need legal help with housing, employment, benefits, domestic safety, or another fundamental need, please visit Legal Aid's website at www.lasclev.org anytime to apply for assistance. You can also call during Legal Aid's intake hours, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 9 to 4 p.m. or Tuesday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Call 216-687-1900.
We here at WOVU 95.9 FM would like to extend a special thank you to our community partners for your support. Thank you to the United Way of Greater Cleveland, the NAACP Cleveland Branch, the City Club of Cleveland, and University Circle Incorporated. Your partnership helps WOVU sustain our mission of helping uplift and engage the community. From all of us here at WOVU, we thank you.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is comedian CiCi Bullock. She's just disclosed to us that she was living in Shaker Heights, and she had to deal with black folks being bused to her school and disrupting things and bullying her and calling her all kinds of names, but she recovered from that. And she eventually ends up at that storied high school called Shaker Heights High School. Just so happens that I went to school with a few folks who went to Shaker Heights High School, so I got a taste of that culture when they came to Kent State University. But I want to get your take on what it was like to go to school at a high school in Shaker Heights, Ohio.
Well, something even funny, like, okay, so the bullying started at elementary school, then I got to junior high school, and I was in the 9th grade, and I dated a high schooler, and the girls, Shaker class of 80, told my boyfriend, because that was back when you passed notes and wrote letters and whatever, and they told him that when she comes up to this high school, we're going to kill her. They were serious. This little 9th grader is not going to date one of our high school guys. So my dad sent me to Regina High School in 10th grade, because I guess he took it seriously that they were going to kill me. So I spent 1 year at Regina, class of 80 graduated, and then I went to Shaker because I just we're not Catholic, and I didn't like the all-girl vibe. And I was like, Dad, please, can I go back? And he did, and every day after school I would go up there. But a lot of people don't even realize that I wasn't at Shaker in 80. I entered in 81 when the bullies left that were going to kill me. And these were girls, you know.
Okay. So your time at Shaker Heights was relatively slim there. You had
I was on the 2-year plan instead of the 3-year plan.
Okay. All right. So you go to high school, and then did college follow that?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what did you do? Where did you go?
Okay, so I graduated Shaker of 82. While I was there, I was into the arts, but I was also really into science. I wanted to be a doctor. So this is another funny story. My godmother went to Spelman, and of course she wanted me to go to Spelman. She's an AKA. And so I went down there, but this was before Oprah and Bill Cosby gave all that money. And freshman dorm was, can't remember the name of it, but it was the old Packard Hall, I believe. It was the oldest dorm, and there were roaches. Like, you know, you unpack your suitcase and you put your underclothes and what have you in the drawers. Roaches are crawling, you know, because, you know, roaches live longer than dinosaurs. And I was just like, you know, imagine this chick from Shaker in Deep Shaker. I've never seen a roach. And so Daddy came and got, you know, flew down, and, you know, obviously this wasn't working. And I had, my best friend's mom had gone to Ohio University. Spelman was on semesters. OU back then was on quarters, so I could still have time to fly home and make it into OU. So I was a Bobcat, and I went to college pre-med chemistry at Ohio University.
Okay, so what happened with that degree?
Well, I don't want to talk about tragedy, but my dad, there was a demise when I was 19. So it changed the course of what would have happened. But we're going to talk about positive parts of my life. So I ended up getting a degree in early child education, and I did my student teaching at the Jewish Community Center, which was in Cleveland Heights at the time, where the condos are. And then I got a full-time teaching position at the JCC in the Woods in Cleveland Heights, but they closed it, and after they closed, I went on and became a corporate trainer for Alfred Lerner at MBNA. 8 years, never missed a day, never late. I taught communication and communications, listening, and conflict resolution. And I also collected, because, you know, we're a bank, I collected from 30-day all the way to 150-day. And what that means is your credit card is 150 days past due. And I also traveled to Delaware. I made up, our business thing was, you could make, it was called, I think, an APS, where you could write a check over the phone to pay your bill. So I took the Dr. Seuss Green Eggs and Ham, and I turned our our business thing into the same cadence as green eggs and ham. For somehow these two Caucasian guys had let management or whatever know that it was their thing. They were going to send them to Delaware, and I was like, So I went. There was supposed to be a chain of command, but Cheryl Bullock, CiCi Bullock, whoever you want it to be, but at that time I was Cheryl Bullock. I went to a higher up and I said, oh no, I wrote that. They were like, oh my God, we're sorry, we didn't know. That not only did Al Lerner send me to Delaware, I was in charge of the plane tickets, the rent-a-car, and I performed at what was a little theater of all the big wigs. There were thousands. It was like a miniature Playhouse Square, if you will, and I was able to do my little green eggs and ham thing for everybody that was anybody at our headquarters in Delaware.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I was just recalling what you said about your dad, with the putting green in the backyard.
Right.
And I know we kind of moved past that, but did he play at Highland Golf Course or did he play at the country club?
My dad was one of the founding fathers of the National Negro Golf Association. He believed that if blacks had enough money to belong to a country club, as well they should. So every Wednesday, that's when the doctors in the club took off. They were at Highland, but we traveled all over the world. And because I was my dad's only child, most of the children didn't go with their parents. But I was the child that went to every one of those, Great Gorge, the islands, wherever my dad and my mom were going for golf, I went with them.
Yes.
With my Winnie the Pooh stuffed animal, and when it was time for the adults to do their thing, my dad hired a nanny, and that's just how I lived.
Okay. Did you ever take up golf, or was it just something?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. And very much so. My dad and I were inseparable, and I want to say in the 80s maybe, or it might have been late 70s, Dad had a brain tumor the size of a lemon. They didn't think he was going to make it. Fast forward to, not only did he make it, he was able to golf again. He couldn't walk the 18, but I drove him in the cart, the 18.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, I have spent many a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Wednesday
right.
playing golf at Highland.
Yes.
I've seen Highland go from a nicely manicured golf course had gone to the dogs,
yes,
to being rescued again, to being taken seriously by the city of Cleveland. They've done great things with the course, and hopefully in this coming year I'll be able to visit a couple of times.
Right.
Last year I think I may have played 4 times for the whole year.
Wow.
And this is going from being somebody who was out 3 or 4 times a week, to being out 3 or 4 times a summer. But we're going to change that, and I'm going to make friends.
Good. But yeah, my baby shower, because my dad died when I was 19, but I had my baby shower at Highland because I wanted it to be close to Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that's when they had just redone it, and it was all nice.
Yes.
But yeah.
So I'd have to imagine if he had an organization like that, at some point he would have been able to rub shoulders with folks like Charlie Sifford and Calvin Pete and some of the other black professionals who played on the PGA Tour, who were happy to come to a city like Cleveland and find brothers who are out there enjoying the sport.
Exactly. And the National Negro Golf Association still exists today, and it's all over the country.
Okay.
So there are these young brothers and maybe some people in their however old, because if my dad was alive today, his birthday is November 24th. This past Thanksgiving, he would have been 106.
Wow.
He was 16 years older than my mom. And my sister, from my mom's previous marriage, my sister was 16 years older than me.
Okay.
So when I was born, she was 16.
Well, just looking at you, Cheryl, I'd have to think that your dad had good taste when it came to women.
Oh, my God. My diva mom, as I call her on Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah, and as you know, she was best dressed 1970 in Ebony magazine in a mink suit. And the photo shoot was at our home on Van Aken and Ashby. And matter of fact, I was taking an African American literature course at Tri-C, and I think the lady's name is Margot something. We used to go to the same hairstylist. So I'm sitting in the class, and she had just bought a house. She was like, my mother and I were cleaning out the attic, and we're looking at Jets and Ebonies, and we open this Ebony, and we see this woman in a mink suit. And I was sitting in that class because, it was a very small class. And I'm like, that's my mom. And she just couldn't believe it. But we have the original Ebony magazine of my mom. And it was a mini, mink hat. It's on my Facebook right now. Mink hat, jacket, mini skirt. She looks a lot like Tina Turner. And Tina's maiden name or whatever, her real name is Bullock.
Right.
Anime Bullock.
Right.
But she's been stopped in Chicago, New York, and had her, asked for her autograph. But if you see her, even at 90, if she could walk in some heels, she could still rock that mini skirt.
Sounds like I should be talking to your mama.
She would have some stories.
I know she's got some stories.
Yeah, but I've been on a catwalk with her since I was born in 1964. I don't know when they started me. But we used to go to Hallie's and the Twigby shop and all that stuff. It was tradition for us to go get Christmas ornaments the day after Christmas. We're at Dillard's in Beechwood Place shopping, getting our ornaments. And this Caucasian woman says, I know you. I remember when I worked at Higbee's downtown and you came in with your little girl in a this bad leather outfit. My mother and I looked at each other. How could this woman possibly remember? Because we always dressed to the nines when we went shopping. But that woman remembers my mother from Higbee's, her bringing me to see Mr. Jingling and all that kind of stuff. That was just amazing to me.
All right, so
yeah.
I'm speaking with fashionista Cheryl Bullock, a.k.a. CiCi Bullock, and sitting here thinking I should be talking to her mother. Maybe we'll see that happen, maybe we won't.
Hopefully.
But as you said, I'm sure she's got some stories to tell.
Oh, wow, yes.
Speaking of stories to tell, you are a comedian and you are a storyteller. So when we return, we're going to dive into the craft of CiCi Bullock, the storytelling comedian. Mm-hmm. Hang on, y'all. We'll be right back. This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. I'm talking with CiCi Bullock, and this is 95.9 FM WOVU, Burton Bell Car Community Radio. We'll be back, folks. Hang on.
Hey listeners, here at WOVU 95.9 FM, we want to stay connected with you. So like our page on Facebook, which is WOVU 95.9 FM, or you can call our request line at 216-271-0959. Again, that is 216-271-0959. Also, don't forget to visit our website at WOVU.org. Keep it locked on WOVU 95.9 FM, a BBC community radio station.
Are you or someone you know in need of help? Here's a resource you can turn to.
The Thea Bowman Center has been serving the community for over 50 years and provides services to help support Mount Pleasant and surrounding communities of all ages. Some of these programs include adult education, like GED, computer classes, food pantry, senior outreach, youth after school, and summer programs, and much more. Are you a Cleveland resident in need of a GED preparation, a food pantry, youth or senior programs? Then call the Thea Bowman Center at 216-491-0669 or visit TheaBowmanCenter.org. Call the Thea Bowman Center at 216-491-0669 or visit TheaBowmanCenter.org to register today.
This message is brought to you by the Thea Bowman Center and WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
We here at WOVU 95.9, our voices united, are about to bring you crystal clear sound. On our terrestrial frequency of 95.9, in fact, you will have to turn your volume down. It will be 100% stereo with a bass rocking your speakers, and our WOVU 95.9 website and mobile app will have 192,000 kilohertz over 32-bit. Maybe that is hard to understand, but your ears will know. There is a new sound on WOVU 95.9 FM, our website, and our mobile app. WOVU, a Burton Belcar Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. I'm speaking with the fashionista. Had the mom with the anime Bullock legs and the mini skirt leather, dressed to the nines. That's quite a story.
It's a really hard act to follow.
Yes, I'm going to have to look up that Facebook post just so I can catch a glimpse. So you described a professional life that had you working for Al Lerner, who is probably one of the most, the wealthiest and, most widely known Clevelanders. So, that's quite a pedigree to have. You also mentioned to me earlier that you had worked in Cleveland Housing Network. And I'm thinking that perhaps even though you were performing for people, as you told me earlier, over a long period of time, comedy has not been your vehicle for that entire time that you've been entertaining folks, in 59 years.
Right.
So, how did you discover comedy?
Well, my mom always said you got to laugh to get from crying. To laugh to whatever the saying is. I just totally messed it up. You got to laugh to keep from crying.
Right.
Thank you. And my sister had epilepsy. She was ill. There was a lot of illness. She had a stroke at a young age. And so, we did a lot of hospital stays and what have you. And there was always humor in our home. And I used to entertain, Dad used to have the poker games on whatever at the house of the NNGA, and he would let me entertain them at their break or whatever. I went to the Cleveland Institute of Music and Dance. That was something that Dad and I did on Saturdays. So Saturday afternoons, he was not at Highland. He was down at the Cleveland. I took music, piano, theory, voice. So I've just always, I was a dance choreographer at Shaker, and I've always wanted to be an entertainer. But my mother ran our household, and she was like, no, you're going to college, pre-med chemistry, be a doctor. But I wanted to be, before there was J-Lo and Paula Abdul, that was my dream. All my dad's relatives were like, she was meant to be a star. But Mom dimmed my light a little bit, if you will. So now at almost 59, I'm able to do whatever I want to do. You can't tell your mother at senior year in high school, I'm not going to college, pre-med chemistry, and live to tell about it. You go to college. It wasn't necessarily pre-med chemistry. It was just like, you're going to college. People don't go to college to be dancers, in her mind. And like I said, she ran the household, so, I took my, little butt down there and did what Mary Bullock said to do.
Mm-hmm. But somewhere down the road, you find comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So how did it happen for you?
It started with Ron Ramey, who's now deceased, and then Mark Reedy. I was in Chicago. He was my hairstylist. He was doing comedy part-time, and he told me about the improv classes. He was like, once he moved to Cleveland and became the I think they called him the clean comic, kind of like a Bill Cosby style he said, I wish they had had this class when I was growing up. He was doing college campuses, like every other comedian. So I took Dave Swenson's class at the Improv in 2018, and we created CiCi Bullock because Dave was like, well, what are we going to call you? CiCi, Cheryl, there was no CiCi. And I came up with CiCi because my twins are Cameron and Chandler. And when I was pregnant at MBNA, everybody would call me the 3 C's because I'm Cheryl. And I had already chosen the names. So I was like, that's cool, CiCi. And I wanted to spell it, capital C, small I, capital C, small I. And it just took off from there. And I've been doing comedy since 2018, improv, hilarities, funny stop in Akron, and of course every other dive bar along the way.
What was your process for learning the craft?
Well, I'm a storyteller. And you already know I have a gift for gab, and everything that I say on stage is true. I talk about marriage, I talk about adultery, I talk about raising twins, childbirth, being the daughter of a diva, you name it. But everything, wherever I'm performing, everything that I say, although, yes, I write. I have the George Carlin hamburger notebooks, and I still write comedy. But what I'm writing is how to get it to make it funny, whether it's, going outside, picking a switch, or whatever happens in a black culture, or even just being bullied or whatever it is. But everything I say on stage has actually really happened. I just give it a little, they used to call me Secret Squirrel at Byron and Shaker, and even as an adult. Matter of fact, Lem of Forecast knows me as Secret Squirrel. And because I just always had this little sneaky, kind of way of drawing people in and just making them intrigued about whatever it was that I was doing. So I brought that to comedy.
Was that something that you grew up thinking that maybe someday I'll do that, or was it a situation where the light bulb just went on and you said, "Oh, let me see, maybe I can do this"?
I think when he went from hairdresser to boyfriend to full-time boyfriend living in Cleveland, and he told me, I guess I would make him laugh. And if you can make a comic laugh, and he was like, Cheryl, you need to do comedy. But this was back in the 80s. Dave's class, as you see, I didn't make it to that stage until 2018. So Dave always has a closer. He knew about my relationship with Mark, and that's who he had as the closer. And Dave was like, should we tell him? I was like, no, don't tell him. So he came to close out my graduation show at the Improv. He walked over to me once, the secret was out, and he was like, do you know what you're going to say to begin your set? Yes. Do you know how you're going to end it? You'll be fine. And I was. Because it was like he passed the baton. He'd been trying to tell me for years to do it, but, I'm married, I got to raise a family. And then, when the boys graduated from Shaker in 2017 and went to college, it was a perfect time for CiCi Bullock to come alive and tell all those stories about being divorced, raising twins, and, that's just how it happened.
In the workshop that we participated in today, and I'm saying we because I was witness to it, not that I necessarily am thinking about becoming a comedian, but Robert talked about 3 different lanes that you could travel in as a comedian, and storytelling was one of them. There were 2 others. Can you talk about why you chose to be the storyteller and not necessarily the one that's, dropping a whole bunch of one-liners, or, somebody who does a lot of physical comedy, but instead chooses the path of telling stories?
Because it comes natural. And excuse me, I'm sorry. And there is physicality to my stories. I move around, I'm very animated. It just comes natural. Like, comedy for me is easy, even though I have to write it, even though I'm grinding. Now, acting is at almost 59, memorizing lines and all of that. But I could, as you know, we've been in here since whatever time, I could do a set I could do an hour's worth of comedy, 2 hours without even batting an eye. As long as and I don't even really have to, I guess growing up as an only child and playing with Barbies and, you just have to be creative. You're entertaining yourself. So I could just basically just talk to a room full of people. And being a corporate trainer, Al used to come into my class, and I used to, my icebreaker was I would play telephone. I would say a message in the first person's ear, and that message isn't going to be the same. And he loved it. But everything that I've done in my life, it just comes naturally. Not that I don't have to work at it, because female comics, just like females in any industry, we are still, I hate to say it, but we're second-class citizens, whether it's the WNBA or the whatever it is. We don't get the same respect that men do.
Why do you think that is, Cheryl?
Well, I think it's because they're intimidated by what we're doing. Instead of working together and creating a comedy show where we all win, it shouldn't be segregated. Saturday Night Live isn't segregated. Living Color wasn't segregated. We can all be funny together. Look at Lucille Ball. It was Desi and the neighbors and the little kid, just all of it. But we could all win. Like, what does P. Diddy say? You want to eat? Don't be intimidated by us. We just want a seat at the table. And why shouldn't we? We're in 2023.
Right. We mentioned earlier about what Monique went through.
Yeah.
And her thing was, if I'm going to be at Netflix, then I need to get paid what other folks get paid to do what I do.
Exactly.
Because there's no question about the fact that I'm good.
Right.
And there's no question about the fact that I have the credentials, so the pay should be commensurate with my skills.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know in this lifetime, just like I didn't think I'd ever see a black president, I don't know if I'm going to ever see comedians and comedian get the same respect.
Well,
I hope that I can change the game.
Yes. We're living, some say, we're living in the age of Aquarius. And the age of Aquarius is an age that, it's an age in which feminine energy is very prevalent.
Yes.
So we're seeing, world leaders, are becoming women in different places. So, you never know, the paradigm could change, and perhaps you can be on the leading edge of that change.
That's my plan. Okay. 2023 is all about, I'm creating my website. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, now TikTok. I even did a dance and a tribute to Twitch. And I just want to be on as many platforms as I can. And I'm having a brunch at Edwin's on February 11th. I want to empower women, period. And not even just women. This particular brunch is just going to be 10 women, including myself. Because it's hard to get 10 people of any race in one room. We know that from our class this afternoon. So I'm starting off small, but I want to empower. There's a lot of, like I just talked about, insecurities. So,
yes,
put us all, anybody can come to the brunch, really, not this particular one, but let's talk about why you're intimidated by female comedians coming on your stage.
All right. So we're just going to put it out there. 2023, the year of CiCi.
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson, 95.9 FM, WOVU. I'm with CiCi Bullock, comedian. You just heard it. She's going to be doing a brunch at Edwin's. So I'm sure before this show ends, we'll get more info on that. We'll be right back after this.
WOVU listeners, did you know you can call us during any live show? Did you know you can ask questions or give your comments live on the air? If you didn't know, now you know. Call the WOVU request line at 216-271-0959. Your voice is our request. No one says it like you. You're better than the rest. Call us 216-271-0959. Questions, comments, complaints, we want all that and the kitchen sink. This is WOVU. Our voices united. We can't do it without you. Call on through.
You already know what it is.
This is Artemis Carter with Youth Opportunities Unlimited.
What up, what up? Hi, this is Brian Webster, the MyCom Regional Coordinator for Burtonville Car Development.
What up, what up? Hey, this is Camille Hurd of Fellow, for everyone's love of hair and beauty, the first and only social marketplace for all of your beauty needs.
What up, what up? This is Ben Golston
and Fred Ward.
What up, what up?
Hi, this is Kimberly F. Brown.
What up, what up?
Hi, this is Wanda Harris from Warrensville Heights, Ohio.
What up, what up?
Hi, this is Ken Hawkins Jr. Keep it locked.
What up, what up?
Hi, I'm Lindsay Sims.
What up, what up?
Hey, this is Keisha Allen from Home Repair Resource Center.
Because you're checking out the hottest radio station, period.
Anything that you need, we got to hear at WOVU 95.9 FM. I am your music director, DJ Chris Towles. And thank you for listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
WOVU LP Cleveland.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is comedian CiCi Bullock. She just told us she's going to be doing a workshop or a brunch. At Edwin's. Go ahead and give us the details on that and ways that folks can reach out to you.
Well, on Facebook, I have CiCi Bullock's events. I have over 900 followers. And the reason why I created that was because, you know, your friends want, where are you performing? What's the address? Blah, 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 you know. And I get, you know, everyone has busy lives. But what a lot of people don't understand, any entertainer, we're always going to have an audience. I don't expect that everybody that I grew up with Shaker is going to be at every show. So I created CiCi Bullock's events, whether I'm doing a brunch, whether I'm at Funny Stop or whatever. So you can just go on there and join it. It's a private group. And like I said, this is an intimate because it's only 10. But I think I've only gotten 4 people so far that said that they were going to attend. I haven't looked at my events today, but you can only make reservation for 10 at Open Table. And so I said, well, let's start with 10. And 10 could grow into, hey, Edwin's on Saturday, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to, you know, have Edwin's 2. I don't know how many people it seats, but let's say it's 20. Let's say it's 30. Just bring it on. We could have it here. It doesn't have to be at some brunch restaurant. I just want people to come together. Let's find out why it is that you not necessarily don't want us. First of all, I'm just guessing with you. I don't know why they don't want us, or I don't even want to put it out there that the men don't want us there. I'm just guessing that they're intimidated. Who knows? But let's all sit and talk about it. And let's figure out a way that we can both win.
So with that note, let's talk about some of the other challenges that you face as a woman comedian in a man's game, so to speak.
Well, one, they don't really see me. Well, they see me when I'm on stage, obviously, and they know that I'm talented. But after I perform, you know, at Funny Stop, you know, they'll line up in the back of the wall, you know, whether it's other comedians or whatever, and all I get is nice set. Not that I need your validation, but if you do a killer photo op or whatever, I'm going to say more than, wow, I like the lighting in that one. You know, it's almost like they feel like they have to say something. I would rather, if I'm killing it up there, I don't need you to say anything one way or the other, but just, it's almost like a nod. Like when you're walking down the street and you're just like, acknowledge a person. They figure that it's almost like they feel like they need to say something. So basically, as a female comedian, it's just nice set.
Well, at least they're giving you that.
Right.
Perhaps there's a little jealousy in there, or
Yeah.
who knows what else.
A little haterade.
So we've seen kind of an explosion of comics now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering, who is it that has caught your eye over the years? Is there someone that you've looked to and said, I really like that? Not that I necessarily want to be that person, but I can definitely appreciate the influential aspects.
For me, somebody that I just am like in awe of is what the Wayans brothers, family of 8, growing up in the projects. You got to laugh to keep from crying. I can't even imagine growing up in the projects, but then you create in living color, and you got Jim Carrey, J-Lo. I mean, there isn't anybody that was on that show that wasn't a success. And you venture off to My Wife and Kid. I mean, they just went everywhere. And their sister Kim, who didn't sit there like waiting after the commercial to hear, you ain't heard it from me. It's almost like the success of the Jacksons. To see a black family from the projects just, I guess, in their bunk beds, or I'm just visualizing what their nighttime before bed was like, and they're just thinking, we gotta get out of here. How can we do it? And then, and they just made, gays when they did the Men
in Film.
Yep, Men in Film. The man like on 105, you go to the barbershop and they're selling CD. They just made everything that in the black culture, there's always somebody, whether it's in the hood or wherever you're living, there's always one neighbor that's going to tell everybody's business.
Benita Petrell.
Okay? So it was in Little Magic. She didn't have the talent in this, but her mother believed that she did. Little Magic. All those skits were just hilarious. And all it was just taking regular life, whether you grew up poor or in Deep Shaker. There's always you asked me, were there chitlins served in my home? We might have lived in Deep Shaker, but yes, there were chitlins, hog maws, pig feet, and everything else.
Yeah. You just reminded me of how much things have changed since then, because back in the 90s, we had filmmakers like Spike Lee, who started making movies, and then Keenan Ivory Wayans was fortunate enough to get that platform to take sketch comedy to a whole new level. But now that we live in the age of cell phone cameras and DSLR cameras that can shoot video and 4K and all of that, you're seeing kind of like a black Hollywood in different pockets of the country. So you go to Atlanta and you have my man Lonnie that does Finarios, and you have Jamal the Creative, and then you go out to California, you got Jay Horn Films, and a few others, King V. You got all these folks, and they're doing what they did within Living Color back then, but they're making it more accessible, and they're also finding success with it on platforms like YouTube and TikTok. I heard you mention TikTok earlier, so it seems like you're taking a page out of the opportunities that are out there for folks who have these concepts, these things that are funny, things that can be captured with video, and things that enable you to exercise your chops as a writer.
I love TikTok. For one, it's very user-friendly. But speaking of people like that, earlier I talked to you about my first movie, which I call him the Spike Lee of Cleveland, Javon Bates. Took a tragedy of people he lost friends to fentanyl addiction, so he wrote a book called Common Creed, and he asked me to play the lead character's mom. My son got to come to see me film. He got to come to the red carpet. I'm just, as I say in my hashtag, I'm just a girl from Shaker Heights, Ohio. And he didn't know me from anyone. He used to have this little comedy thing at Hyatt and Lyndhurst, but I was just a guest. I wasn't performing. He was watching me and another bougie shaker. They were eating pizza out of box. We went to the bar and we set up our little whatever, and I guess he was watching me do all that. He inboxed me on Facebook. He said, I'd like for you to play the lead character's mom. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. You know what I mean? I didn't know him. And he said, I'm out of town. When I get back in town, I'll send you the script. And he did. And we filmed it. And it's on Prime. And I believe it's been on Prime since 2019. And now I'm in his film Dark Ether. It just left Atlas Eastgate. And from what I understand, as I was telling you, it'll be in Chicago, I believe March 24th. So he's taking it all over the United States. I guess, I don't know where it's going to be in February, but I have a speaking role. I play a character by the name of Dana, and it's a thriller. And he wrote the book first and made it into a film.
Okay, so is it possible that you might be producing some video-oriented content beyond the limitations of TikTok?
Well, funny that you should say that. I have something in the works, and I'll just give a little. I don't like to put my ideas out there because someone, before we get it started, will create it. But I'll just say this. I know everybody remembers Oprah's show, and everyone knows that her best friend is Gail, and they love to eat. So my little teaser is that.
Okay.
Because I'm a freak for the best cupcake, the best cookie. So just look out for me doing something funny with some things that I enjoy doing. Finding the best sandwich, whatever it is, I like to eat.
Well, if you ever decide to do a vegan version of that,
okay,
and you need a male person to be involved in that, holla at her, bruh.
Oh, you're vegan?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's do it. We could do ice cream. You could teach me some things.
Oh, yeah.
But that's my first iron is getting my website up and running, getting some merch. But I'm still toying around with which one of my little sayings that I'm noted for that I want to be on a shirt. And my twins help me with that creativity. Chandler does all my PR work from Interlochen, Michigan. So I know he's going to be really happy when this website is finished because he won't have to do it. You can just go on, get a T-shirt, find out where, see my EPK, see clips of Common Creed, Dark Ether. I'm also in White Noise with Don Cheadle and Andre 3000. And, oh, Lord, of course.
Now she starts dropping the names on us, and we got 30 seconds left. So,
yep, Netflix, White Noise. Look for CiCi Bullock.
All right. So since you're dropping names, drop the ones that will result in folks finding you and seeing the great projects that you're involved in.
On Facebook, I'm Cheryl Bullock, CHERYLBULLOCK. On my events is if you want to join, you don't necessarily have to be my Facebook friend, is CiCi, that's capital C, small I, Bullock, CiCi Bullock's events. And I'll list, where I'm going to be, when. And TikTok, I'm comedian CiCi Bullock, and it's spelled the female way, ComedienIenne. And on Instagram, I'm comedian CiCi Bullock.
Okay, we're going to list all those things in the thumbnail and sketch that accompanies the podcast on my YouTube channel, which is Vince Robinson, and we'll make sure everybody knows how they can find you and how they can experience the wonder that is CiCi Bullock. Thank you for joining me today. And thank you for listening. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day, Cleveland and the rest of the world.